Bruins Beat is brought to you by PrizePicks and the GameTime app.
And welcome into the Bruins Beat, presented by PrizePicks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 back when you play just $5, and are presented by GameTime. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $20 off that first purchase. Terms apply. I am Evan Marinofsky. That is Andrew Raycroft. Razor, what is up?
What is up? More like what is kind of down right now in regards to this. Unfortunately, the Bruins are dropping in the standings and they're down in the standings. So, but everything else is great. Everything else is great.
That's good. Everything. How was the play, Mrs. Lincoln?
Yeah, that's right.
At least they spared you from this road trip. You're home. You don't have to go to Florida.
Yeah, and I guess it was cold down there too. So yeah, they let Pellerin hang with the mom. So that's perfect for him. And then and on top of it, national game on Saturday, so I can DVR it and watch at my own leisure peril without and hopefully I'll check the score while we're doing that to make sure I want to watch it.
That's right. Yeah, it's been a weird stretch here. How's it been for you? They have you down by the ice. They've got you as the rinkside guy. They've got you kind of everywhere. How's that been so far?
Yeah, I'm buzzing around. It's great. It changes things up. It's a little different at home than it is on the road. Nice to go to the studio and hang there. But yeah, no, it's been good. It's been fun, and despite the last 10 days, it's it has been an entertaining and interesting season, and I guess it still has been interesting. There's lots going on, that's for sure. This isn't like just a cozy regular National Hockey League team this year. It's had a lot going on.
It's been drama. I haven't remembered a season. I started doing this in 2019. I don't remember, like, Cassidy got fired in 2022, but that was after the season. And you have Montgomery, the whole contract situation. You have Jeremy Swayman's contract situation. And there's been legitimate drama with this team. I mean, not really on the ice. I think that's been the disappointing part. But there's been a lot of storylines off the ice to talk about. I'm curious, though, like you moving down to doing rinkside stuff, kind of for the first time. How's that been? It's going to be like a new challenge.
It's a bit of, yeah, it is. It's different. It's trying to work in with with Brick and Judd, and trying to stay out of their way, of course, add my little tidbit, and get out as soon as possible and not ruin their flow, because it is so good. Judd's awesome at it. He's very good at directing traffic up there and getting to both of us, and of course it's a little sporadic. They don't need me all the time, and there's a lot going on, but for me, it's just a matter of compressing my thoughts really quickly, because it's not the studio where you have a little bit of rope, and it's not Brick where you can talk for the period, or you can talk for the entire time that the other team's getting ready to break out on a controlled breakout where they're just kind of hanging out.
It's not a podcast.
So it's coming out of TV a lot of times, or it's coming off of a goalie interference where they're ready to drop the puck again. And I can't be talking over a goal call. That's an absolute tragedy. So it's been fun. It's a little bit of work for me, which is great. It gets my mind going, and again, it's just a great way to watch a hockey game and be involved. That's what I appreciate the most is just being in the mix and being in the game.
You think that's long term what you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I've got my crew and all the stuff going on. I don't really think about the long-term game still. Like, I'm kind of day to day, but Brick's got 6, 7, 8 years in him left. So if I can hang around that long, possibly, but at this point, it's kind of wherever they can put me, and if I can stay part of the team, I'm happy to do that.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. You've been doing a great job. Team that hasn't been doing a great job is the Bruins. What is going on? They lose 4-1 in Tampa on Thursday night. They're 0-5-1 in their last 6. What do you see going wrong right now?
Well, first off, I do think they're a good team still. I mean, of course, I see the vitriol of the fans and hear it, and people call me a homer all the time and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, whether it's here, the radio, or Brew, or TV. But I don't think they're a bad team. I really don't. I hear a lot of roster construction, and I hear that there was no roster construction issues when they got the free agents that they wanted in the summer and when the season started. Of course, there was individual question marks, and then the Swayman contract. Like all of that stuff got done. So starting there, I think if they can organize here, they're still a team that most teams wouldn't want to play in the first round if everyone's healthy. So I'll preface all of that. Now, two things for me, really two big things. The easy one's the power play. It's super easy to look at that, and it's killing them. It is flat out killing them because now we've crossed over another threshold of giving up shorthanded goals on top of it. First, it was, it's pretty good. They're not scoring, but there's still some momentum there. Then it goes to, not scoring, and they're not getting any momentum out of these. It's almost a benefit for the other team. Then it goes to, all right, we don't even want these called. Like, there's no excitement at all when there's a
you're right.
penalty
Like, decline the
Bruins.
penalties.
You're like,
just decline them.
And now we're at the next one where, oh my gosh, they're giving up shorthanded goals on top of it this week. Not just no momentum, or not just no scoring, not just no momentum, not just no excited to get a penalty. Now it's absolute dread. You're going to be -1 on this power play. So it's as bad as it gets. It's as bad as it gets. They are where they are. That, looking at it last night, I didn't have time to go through all the teams, but just and I know Tampa might not be the best because their power play is so good, but Tampa's power play, just the flat out shorthanded goals to power play goals. And not even adding in the PK, the special teams, but just the shorthanded goals to the power play, they're +22. And they've given up 6 shorthanded goals too. They're +22. The Bruins are +10.
It's awful.
16 goals for, 6 against halfway through the season. So they're +10. That's just 12. That's 12 more that Tampa's got. That's probably worth 8 points minimum 8 points. Yeah. And then you go to their PK is -30. Okay, so they're -30 on the PK. They've got 32 power play given up and 2 shorthanded goals, so they're -30. So combined, they're -20 in special teams. Tampa Bay's +11. Okay, so that's just the simple math of like one team. If you went through the entire league, I can't imagine there's too many special teams that are -20. And that's not percentages, that's raw goals. Those are goals. That's half a goal a game that they're losing on the special teams compared to what all the other teams are gaining, maybe a quarter of a goal. So they're way behind
that out
there.
of a rebuilding team. You would expect that out of if that even.
No matter what, you're just not. This team's been in the top 5 or 7 of both every single year for the last 12 years. So they're just that's it. And then the other little small part of that, and that's which is leading into the special teams issue, is no Hampus Lindholm. He's taken flack at certain times as a defender, which everybody does in this town. Everyone gets it, but we are seeing you could survive without Hampus Lindholm and your number 2 defenseman in this league for 3 or 4 weeks, which they did, and they had the coaching change and it gave them a bump and they got back to the defensive structure, but they're missing that so much on the left side right now. Whether it's the PK, Zadorov takes a penalty, okay, now it's Lowry and Osterley over on the left side, or Wotherspoon on their PK. On the power play, there's no other options to move up top. It's McAvoy or it's and then Lowry's on the second one. Typically, Lindholm was moving into that when it struggled. And Lindholm's good. Lindholm moves the puck. Lindholm skates the puck. Lindholm can get into the zone. He can shoot the puck. Everyone remembers David Pastrnak being the hero in Game 7 last year against the Leafs. It was Hampus Lindholm who got in and scored the tying goal with 8 minutes left. And again, he drives a lot of offense from the back end. So it's no surprise.
And he made that pass on that.
He made the pass on Pat. Right, he's 1-1 in Game 7. So great call. And so since December 5th, the fact that they just scored their first defensive goal isn't much a surprise. That coincides directly with Hampus Lindholm being out of the lineup. So it's the power play and it's Lindholm being out as long as he has that's really hurt this group or caught up to this group over the last 10 days.
Yeah, Lindholm, it's interesting because the game he got hurt, they finally put him on that first power play unit, and then he gets hurt immediately. It's like, all right, well, there goes that.
And he got hurt blocking a shot on the PK. Like he was huge in the PK, really big, really important.
And he was back to playing his sort of 2023 form. He was back to that same kind of guy that we didn't see as much of last year. I agree with you on the special teams. It's been awful. And that's where, like, you need drastic change. I know Joe Sacco mentioned when he got hired, he's like, we can't fix everything in a day. They haven't hired a third assistant yet. So it's only just, him, Leach, and Kelly. But I don't understand why you don't try to move some guys around. Like I've been saying for weeks, either move Pastrnak out of the one-timer spot. Now, I know it goes deeper than this because they can't even enter the zone cleanly. So, like, there are bigger issues at play, but it started with teams just cracking down on that one-timer and McAvoy trying to force feed those pucks to Pastrnak on the elbow. And I think, like, to me, you either move guys around or you go with a new formation, try an umbrella. Like, there are things you could try to do. And also, you have nothing to lose at this point. Like, your power play is rock bottom. You gave up a shorthanded goal to the Islanders the other night. You gave up a shorthanded goal to the Lightning last night. Both were 1-goal games, by the way. I mean, the last two for the Lightning were empty netters, but both were 1-goal games. So you essentially lost because you gave up shorthanded goals.
Yep.
And to me, like, I think you're correct in that that's a huge problem. And I don't understand why we haven't seen bigger changes yet on the first unit.
Yeah. And to that point, right, it's these are your guys. These are the guys that are on the power plays that are your guys. So you have to be as patient as possible with your high money superstars in the National Hockey League. You don't just like blow the whole thing up. To that though, it has gotten to the point where it's like, okay, we're going 5 forwards. All right, we're going to put Zadorov out there and work his shot at the point. Just something, and a different view, a different idea. They're getting to that point. And I don't, again, 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't have said that. I would have said, you got to keep letting these guys figure it out and letting them work through it. They're all getting paid $10 million a year. They're all, there's one Hall of Famer, maybe another one, certainly 2 guys that are going to have their numbers retired. Like these are your guys. They're not.
Yeah.
They have to figure it out themselves at some point too. But we're past that now. And to your point, this week is the flip on that with the shorthanded goals. Now now I'm all in on just doing something to shake the whole thing up. And of course, I don't know exactly what that would be. I would start with Zadorov up there and just see if he can try and get some shots off and slappers.
Ooh, that's interesting. I didn't think of that one. So Zadorov at the point. He's
got a bomb. He has to be respected up top with a shot. Obviously, he doesn't. Moving it doesn't work as much. But if you could find a way to open him up with a few wristers or a few slappers, I wouldn't mind seeing that. I would do that before I go to 5 forwards, but I'm almost at 5 forwards too. Just whatever, let her rip.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. It's definitely out of the box. And I think right now, like, a lot of the out of the box ideas are probably what they should at least try to do. I was thinking, so for a while I've been saying, move Pastrnak out of the one-timer spot. If you're going to do an overload like they do, move him, put him at the point, put him at the bumper, like try just use him in a different spot to open up somebody else. What I was thinking about last night though is sort of an umbrella where you have Lowry at the very top. You've got Pastrnak at his right. So he's not in a one-timer position, but he's in a position where as you're moving the puck around, right? If you have, let's say, even Zacha on the left of Lowry and you've got even Elias Lindholm and Brad Marchand down by the net, or Justin Brazeau and Brad Marchand down by the net, you can have Pastrnak sort of gaining speed. So finally he hits his stride and Lowry can hit him with a pass. You see some teams do this, and it's not a high percentage shot per se, but if he does have some momentum on that and it is at the top of the circle, teams would probably lock in on him. But I also think if he has that speed and gets that shot off, he can score, obviously, but also you have those 2 guys down by the net for rebounds. You have screens. I just think right now you have to try anything because nothing's really working.
No, it isn't. It isn't. And you do have to mix it up a little bit. But the harsh, or not harsh, it's just the kind of the reality of it is these guys have they're on the power play in the National Hockey League for a reason, and they've done it a certain way for a really long time. So to put guys out of position I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it is that to do that on the fly in an NHL hockey game is asking a lot, right?
Yeah.
That's on top. Like it's, and I'm not talking to you. I'm just saying in big picture because I hear it all the time. Again, I hear it. Oh, just call everybody up. Like, well, they're down there for a reason. Everybody, like they're this isn't just the video game where you move things around, and that's why you have to you have to. Oh, it'd be so much more fun. You have to be patient with it. But again, I repeat, they're past that now because of what's happened this week. Where we got to try something, guys. We let you guys try and figure out. Now we just have to do it something else just to switch it up.
Yeah, and I think you look at like McAvoy and Pastrnak, the two highest paid guys on the team. They have a lot of pride. There's ego there. Like they're not just gonna say, "Oh yeah, I don't need to quarterback the power play."
That's right. I'll be the guy. I'll be net front now. No, I mean, it doesn't
work like that.
David's not net front.
It doesn't work like that. We'll get into some more stuff because I think there's a Lindholm on this team that's been a big reason why they're sort of been struggling. But it's not Hampus. We'll get to that in a second, so you can imagine who it is. First, our friends over at PrizePicks, the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. I've been saying it's playoff time in the NFL. No Patriots, not even close, not even remotely close.
Nope.
But if you want to make the games interesting this weekend, PrizePicks is the perfect place. Get into the game.
Bills Mafia. Yep.
That's right. Bills Mafia. I want to see the Bills go far. I want to see the Lions go far.
They're going to smoke them this weekend.
Exactly. So make it fun over at PrizePicks. They also offer MasterCard now to make deposits into your account quick and easy. Bruins-wise, Pastrnak has been better lately. So if I have Pastrnak 0.5 goals, I think I'm going more. And Pastrnak usually does well against Florida. So I think that's a good one. I'm for it.
I agree. I like that afternoon game. He loves afternoon games too.
Yeah.
National TV.
Exactly. I think it's worth it. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Run your game. So Lindholm, Elias Lindholm. I think so. It's funny going into this year. I was one of the few people who was like, I think this team's going to be nasty. I think this lineup is going to be great. Elias Lindholm, it's going to put everybody into place down below him. Morgan Geekie's going to be a third liner. Like this team's going to hum. And then of course the Swayman contract situation and Jim Montgomery's, half of his body was in St. Louis and you get the rest. I do think Elias Lindholm struggles and he's been a little bit better of late. He's slowed down production-wise last couple games, but for a little bit there, especially in December, he was doing well. I think that's really hurt them because it started with he didn't really work with Pastrnak, and he was supposed to. So that, and Montgomery moved him off quick, but it didn't last long.
Yeah.
The production hasn't been there at 5-on-5. The production on the power play really hasn't been there. We all thought like, oh, he'll just fit right in on the bumper, and that's been like non-existent.
Yeah.
And he's a minus. And I'm not the biggest plus minus guy, but this is a guy who was billed as this, stalwart two-way center, Patrice Bergeron light, all these things. And I get that free agents take time to acclimate to places. But to me, I think one of the biggest reasons that they've struggled along with the power play is he hasn't fit the way they thought he would fit. And I think like one of the biggest things is like last year, Morgan Geekie at the end of the year was on the first line. And we all said that's great. He's versatile, but when you start next year, you want him as a third liner. He's a great third line guy who kind of like a Brock Holt can fit in the top 6 when needed and be a utility guy, but really you want him as a third liner. Well, part of the after effect of Lindholm not fitting with Pastrnak is Geekie's up there. Now Geekie has worked. Geekie's producing. Like Geekie's been an undervalued guy, but I still think if you're a cup contender, which they have not proven to be yet, he is a third liner. And to me, I think Elias Lindholm's struggles have been a big reason why I think this team, I'm not saying it's the biggest, but I think it's very impactful on why they are now the first wildcard team.
Yeah. So a few things. One, I agree except for one thing I'll push back is just that plus minus. They've given up a lot of empty net goals the past 10 days that those guys have eaten the minuses. So just for that, like the other day they did David's -4. Well, he's out there for 2 empty netters. So last night, say another empty netter for Lindholm, for Pasta. Like these guys are eating minuses. So just on that plus minus thing, that there is an asterisk beside.
And I don't like plus minus either. I think plus minus.
Yeah. So,
but I'm just trying to make a point,
and I'm doing that just because I think Lindholm's
center.
been good defensively. Like he's lived up to the building of 200-foot game. He's good in his defensive zone. He's good with the stick. Now that's where it kind of ends, though, right? Because you're right. The fact that it didn't work with David is probably the most disappointing part of it. Is that you don't have a Zacha Lindholm Pasta line that is going, because and then to your point, Geeky absolutely he's actually producing as a number one line guy.
He is
for most guys. Like since he's been there, since they got rid of Montgomery, who didn't like Geeky for whatever reason, it was obvious he was healthy scratching him. Since that December point when Geeky got put there. He had a few great chances, like Detroit. He should have scored like 5 goals that night, and then it started to come. And since then, he's produced as a first liner this month. Yeah, there's no question. But that would have been great if it was Coyle, Geeky, and Marchand. If he had stepped his way to Marchand's line, and then you still had Lindholm, Pasta, and Zacha connecting. Had that worked, it somehow worked, and had those guys going. Geeky, then yes, it would have been nice on the third line, but he could be a second line guy if he's going to produce the way he is and shoot the puck the way he is right now. That's all kind of a pipe dream at this point, and it's hard to imagine how that goes back at this point. You're just so locked into where you are, and there's not a lot of chemistry to be made. There's no practices. I guess the one silver lining could be the break. The break coming for this, and to be able, you might actually for the first time in a long time get a reset in the National Hockey League. A lot of teams are going to reset and look different out of that for the first time, but you can't count on it. And it has been ideal for Lindholm to fit the production. And again, it didn't have to be 80 points. It had to be, even if we're at 55 point pace right now, how much better this team would look. So between the power play not working with him out there and that first line not gelling, that's where that roster construction stuff has come into talks now. But again, I was with you the whole time at the start. It made complete sense. And when you're making those decisions, it worked for me.
Yeah, I mean, I know they, going into the year, they lost, they don't have the goalie tandem. They lost to Brusk. You lost Grzelcyk, but I thought, okay, you replace Grzelcyk with Zadorov, and Zadorov's another one. Like, Zadorov's been up with McAvoy a little bit, but even against Edmonton the other night, they have Wotherspoon with McAvoy.
Well, again, that's Lindholm, right? Lindholm
I
sorts everybody, because you either put him with McAvoy in some matchups, or you have him with Carlo and they play defense, and then that slots Zadorov as well, because then you're doing that, and then you can really slot Lowry in the proper places and not get him out. So it just I know it sounds crazy that just one player, it's, you plug in, but this really affects a lot of matchups on a nightly basis.
Oh yeah, it does. Let's talk some trades. We'll talk trades in a second, but first, quick word from our friends over at GameTime. It's the NFL playoffs, so I mean, you're not going to Patriots playoff game, obviously, but if you really want to go to the Super Bowl or an AFC championship game or an NFC championship game, go to our friends over at GameTime. I always say around here, which is more relevant to us, for a Bruins game, I live nearby, so if I want to go, I use GameTime Picks. GameTime Picks makes getting tickets for games even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on getting great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. And I love my flash deals. Flash deals are great because right before the game, they'll discount the tickets, and it's all in pricing. So there's not any fees at the end of it. I know what I'm paying right from the start, and to me, that's the most important thing. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the app today, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. What time is it? It's game time. It's game time. Damn right, it's game time. Might be trade time. Well, not really. But we should talk about this because it is out there. Forgive me, I forget who reported. I think it was a guy named Mark D'Amico reported that the Bruins have been talking to the Canucks about Elias Pettersson and JT Miller, the two centers. So I guess they're feuding. Be nice if the Canucks had like a reality show right now because I think people would enjoy that.
That would be
good. Ooh, that'd air on like Bravo, like the most like trashy reality shows like on there. I think that'd be a great fit over there. Pettersson's 26. Signed 8 years, I think 92 million. So he makes a little over 11 million per. So he's hefty payday. Young guy. JT Miller, I think, is 32. Been around a long time. I think, people are more excited about, hey, what would it take to get Pettersson? And Pettersson would fit you better. I have a couple thoughts on this. I mean, number one, like I think there's a small chance they have enough to deal for like a guy like Pettersson, but there's a lot of teams with a lot more assets, a lot more. Because Pettersson's no movement doesn't hit till next year, correct? Because he is not old enough to get that no movement because he doesn't hit till the next year of his contract. So they can move him if they wanted to wherever. A, would you do it? And B, what do you think you would need to give up?
Well, this one. So of course, I mean, he's an awesome player. So he's good. I mean, he's an all-star. He's got that deal because he gets 100 points in this league when healthy and happy and everything's going well. There is turmoil there. There's an opportunity for teams to get creative. And then the other thing, like teams calling, I promise you, I absolutely promise everyone listening that there's been 31 teams call the Vancouver Canucks about what those two guys and what the deal is and what the price is. That's how the league works. These GMs are literally they have a group chat with each other and they text each other who's available and what's options. And then they call each other after they do that text on the group chat and see who's up. Then they call each other and they talk about it. Like that's how the league works. That's how they all know what's going on, that it's a legit group chat that you get kicked out of as soon as you get fired. So
that's got to be so stressful if your phone's down for like 20. You know how like if your phone's away,
your phone's not down.
I know, but I'm saying like if you're middle of the summer, I know.
The president's phone is never down. Neither is the National Hockey League general manager's phone. It's not.
Just saying.
You might have 8 of them if just to be sure, but it's not. So again, the report is the report. I get it, and it's fun to talk about, but certainly everyone's kicking tires on that, and teams are going to try and get creative because these GMs are sharks. There's blood in the water out there, whatever it is, and they want to pounce and they want to try and take advantage. Would I do it? Of course, I want all good players if possible. Salary cap's going up. It shouldn't be a problem. You should be able to work your way through it. Now, what do you have? What does Vancouver want? That's so hard to answer. Of course, if you want to just go off like contract wise, but you're not just flipping like a first rounder and an extent, and a contract that's expiring at the end of this season.
Correct.
So that's not how this is going to work. Realistically, you're giving another player that has similar term and similar upside in the other direction. I just don't see Vancouver selling to sell on either of those guys, but especially Pettersson. So I don't envision any scenario that it happens. I would do it, but I just don't see that. It's just a big one. It's just a really, really big kind of deal that usually just doesn't end up happening. It's fun to talk about, but I don't even know if the Rangers would do it at this point.
Well, so what's interesting is Kevin Paul DuPont wrote, I think last week, that the Bruins are in need of like a big shakeup trade. And he mentioned the Joe Thornton trade as sort of, ideally this is what you would do. Yeah. And they won a cup 5 years later. I'll give them that. But I wonder, this would be like the opposite of the Joe Thornton trade. You would be trading for the disgruntled star center.
Well, Joe wasn't disgruntled. Just
correct.
let's put
That's
that.
right.
There was no fighting here. There was no. They were not mad at. There was no JT Miller on the other side of Joe Thornton. This was. There was far from disgruntledness here.
Yes.
Just let's make sure.
And he had just signed a relatively big deal at the time.
And he just bought a house and he was excited to stay here forever. So
yeah, and then we got to go to San Jose.
Correct.
I think in terms of what it would take. Because I see, you see like the Reddit and the HF boards, people are like, oh, Carlo and Coyle and Zacha. It's like, no, that's not happening. That's not how this is going to work.
No.
I think if you have a shot in hell at this, because the Canucks want to compete, right? They went fairly deep last year, even without Demko. Like they're in it. They have a young core, Quinn Hughes, like that team is in it. I think if the only way you're able to make this trade, and this is a 1% chance, is why I don't think this happens. They did try to re-sign Elias Lindholm in the offseason. They did.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he was their third line center, so I don't know why he would have, it didn't make sense for him to stay. But if you could get Lindholm to waive his no movement to go back to Vancouver, and then you add in a first, and you might even have to add in Patra, would have to. If you did Elias Lindholm, they take all his money, you take all Pettersson's money, and you add in Patra and a first, I think that's realistic. Now, that's a lot. That's like, and I'm not, and you can say like Lindholm swaps out for Pettersson. Pettersson comes in for Lindholm, fine. But losing Patra would hurt, and losing a future first, which you need to make, hurts. Now, Pettersson is, I think, worth all of that. I think Pettersson's real good. Now, that line with Pastrnak and Pettersson would be billed as soft. Everyone would be calling them soft, even though, they'd be putting up a ton of points.
Yeah.
I think there's a way better chance that Pettersson works with Pastrnak. So I think you get a legit number one center, but it hurts your depth because suddenly like Geeky's still in your top six, which is fine. You could probably put Geeky with Pettersson and Pastrnak, or you could put Zacha up there and you could put, Coyle as your second line center. There's things you can do. But your depth pieces still are not, they're still the same guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and that goes to the moral of the whole story is your depth. The guys that you were counting on to at least get close to continuing their production from last season, the Coyles, the Fredericks of the world haven't, and you're still there. And that's a huge change this season from last. The change from this season to last. So I don't, that deal's probably about right when it comes to assets. Now, when you say Lindholm, it has to be that player has to be really wanted by the Vancouver Canucks. It's not just like a guy who's good, who makes it has to be that guy really has to be wanted by the Canucks. And then they really want to have that prospect. And then they're like, and you have to throw your first, and we don't care about it, but you're throwing it in. So
and he has to waive his no movement. He just signed here. He's a house.
Correct.
You know what I mean? There's that end of it too.
Yeah, of course. So that's all in all why it's easy to talk about, but
exactly. And I think, and that's the thing is the Canucks aren't rebuilding. This isn't trading an asset, to just kickstart a rebuild. They want legit pieces back, but I don't even know if you have the full legit pieces to do.
And to that point, I don't know if anyone in the league does. Right? That's the issue. They might not think that anybody, that is actually tradable, right? Of course, they would trade Pettersson for McDavid, but that, so that's the issue is there's nobody else that's really disgruntled out there. So Vancouver's got to take a bit of a haircut here. And if they haven't done it yet, these guys didn't start fighting 3 days ago. This has been a long time, really long time. So the fact that they haven't, they've signed both of them to 10-year deals while this was going on means to me that they're not too concerned about it and feel like they're going to work it out or have to be absolutely blown away by Leon Draisaitl coming across the board to make a deal.
Hey, you know what? You know this. Winning cures all.
It does.
You win.
Just win. It just we were not in a bad place literally 10 days ago. The whole team was fine. Everything was okay. They're in the playoffs easily. They're 5 games over 500, cooking along, everything. And this is what happens when you lose in 10 days. We start making up fantasy football trades and we start dissecting every little minute breakout and break in of the power play. Like, this is what happens, folks. And again, if they win 4 in a row next week, then that goes away, and that's what the players are talking about, and they know that. And it starts Saturday afternoon against Florida.
That's right. Canucks need to win to stop those trade rumors, and the Bruins need to win to also stop those trade rumors.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what happens. I mean, again, Bruins have Florida, Tampa, and Ottawa next 3. To me, I go back to I think I went into this
to Buffalo the other night too. 4-0 on home ice. So again, I hear the Ottawa is they're it's still worse to be Ottawa, folks. It's way worse to be Ottawa. Please don't want to be Ottawa.
It also, though, I mean, again, and this is the other thing of falling into that wild card. I mean, the Bruins are the first wild card as of Friday morning, 45 points. Columbus has 44. And then there's Pittsburgh with 44 and Ottawa with 41. So you're not far away from falling out of the playoff picture. You're not far away from it.
No, you're grinding the rest of the year, or at least till the break. You need to grind here for sure.
Before you go,
yeah.
What do you feel on the deadline? Does this team add? Does this team sell?
You're adding. You're adding. Yeah. I mean, and not, they're not. They showed last season they're not dumping first rounders at this point. But you're done. They're going to make this team better. They're going to try to make this team better. They're not going to sell everything off. Of course, they have a couple of free agents. They have, with between Beecher and Frederick's the big one. And Geeky's restricted as well. So you've got things there up front that you might have to move around pieces, but I don't see a sell-off for second-round NHL draft picks here. That will make no sense to me at all. Not when you've built the team you have.
What do you mean? Them selling their second-round pick?
I don't see them giving up Frederick for a second-round pick and not replenishing that. Is what I mean. They don't need third-round picks. And please, folks, don't at me. I'll do the draft pick thing some other day, but you don't build. It's not the NFL. You don't build through the draft in the NHL the same way. It's just different.
You don't think?
No, I don't. I don't believe in 30th overall picks. You do it. You can rebuild if you get the first overall pick or you get a top 5 pick, but you don't build first round picks that are below 17. Do the math. You go Google it and see how many guys and how many games and how many people miss. It's a lot.
The percentages
the bottom half
you're right.
Of the first round is the same as the second, which is the same as the third to me.
But so my point is you look at this past summer, right? I think this past summer of going and signing Lindholm and Zadorov, and I think at the time we all wanted them to go sign at least Lindholm because it was the best center available. Mm-hmm. But that shows you that free agency is also not the way to build your team. I think drafting and developing your guys is the way to build your team.
Well, they've done that though. I argue this all the time. So their back end, they have McAvoy, Carlo, and Lowry. They're draft picks. They've built those 3 guys, and they got rid of Grzelcyk last year but there was 4 guys last season.
And I like how they got Hampus Lindholm. They traded a first for someone who
they
you
got
would hope
Earl back in 9, and they used Lindholm. We can go through this whole thing and how well they've actually developed their draft picks. You've got up front, you've got David, and in goal, you've got Swayman. So you literally and go around the league and see what teams have their starting goalie, their best defenseman, and their top scoring forward all drafted without drafting in the top 10 in the last 15 years. It's unheard of, folks.
I think
that's literally hasn't ever happened before.
But there's not a lot around Pastrnak that they've drafted and developed. I think that's the problem, especially down the middle. Pastra's on that ascent for sure.
I know, but there isn't any other team that has either. What you want to do? Edmonton, Draisaitl and McDavid, and Nugent Hopkins first, and third.
Well, you don't want to do that. That's the other thing. You don't want to be
Hedman. You don't want to be Vasilevsky 19th overall. Their point. There's my point is do not want third round draft picks and second round draft picks at this deadline.
Oh no, but I'm saying if someone comes along and says, "Here's a first for Trent Frederick," I would do it in a second.
Well, I'd do it. They're not. That's never happening in the entire world of planetary. That's not what he's worth.
Yes, but trade deadline trades can get crazy. I wouldn't be surprised if a team came along with that.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, if that happens, they're going to do it in an absolute heartbeat.
But I agree with you. I agree with you on this. They're not going to look to sell. Like,
No.
I think a retool is not the worst idea in the world. I'm for it, but they're not going to do that. They want to compete. They've put too much money in this roster.
They have to, they have to move. You have to do business, and you can't give assets up for free over the summer. And that's the reality of the league. But you also you can't try and go to the bottom with this lineup. It's too good.
No, and I think the fans who say like they need to blow it all up. I think
they don't know.
Completely mistaken.
Yeah, they did. Unfortunately, they don't know.
I don't understand that line of thinking. But if you want to sell Frederick for picks, I'm fine with that. I am, because
that's one guy, but you have to replenish. You have to use the picks to then go get someone else too, though. Is what I'm saying. Because if you don't have Frederick, then there's one more. Then there's even less spots out there for everybody.
I'm fine. I would be completely fine if they dealt Frederick for picks and had Patra come in and be some third line center. I'd be fine with that.
Yeah,
but I know you're not, and that's okay.
No, there's a development process to these picks too, right? You need to develop them properly. Like the Washington Capitals, everyone's going to Washington. These guys played in the minors and won playoff series in the minors. All these McMichael and Protus, and these guys all played for a while down there. They didn't just call them up when they got a little hairy in the National League. So that's the underlying point of this too, where people want to talk about developing and getting their draft picks up. Well, you also have to make them good, and you have to be patient on that too, right? So, and
they have been, and Merkulov's been down there a long time. Like absolutely. That's the other thing, right?
Well, and it's been a long time, is 2 years at this point, right?
Yeah,
2.5. Exactly. So give them a blow. Patra's been there for 4 months.
That's right. You're right. But you know what? I look at it like this, right? Like he's building his confidence. I think going down was a great move.
100%. Like, he's going to be better because of this, it might not be until September.
Maybe.
Right.
But I would, what the scenario I mentioned, I'd be okay with that. I would be.
No,
Razor. What can the people look forward to from you coming up? When are you back on the broadcast? You got the pod, you got Morning Brew. What's going on?
It's pretty steady Eddie dog days, right? Tuesday game. So work that game and brew afterwards. And there's nothing new in my life. It's all out there. It's all out there.
Nothing new. Just the grind of
gonna grab a nap this afternoon. There you
go. There you go. Razor, it's always a pleasure to have you on again.
You got it.
Thank you for doing this. And that's been this week's Bruins Beat. I'm Evan Marinofsky, Bruins Beat listeners. Have a great rest of your week.